Welcome to this explainer. If your personal growth journey feels a lot more like a revolving door than a forward path, well, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're diving into the frustrating loop of self-sabotage that keeps so many of us stuck at day one, and exactly how we can finally fix it.
Think about how this usually plays out for us. You make a plan, you get super motivated, you confidently tell yourself, okay, this time is going to be completely different. You start working out, eating better, saving money, really working on yourself. You genuinely feel like you've turned a corner. But then, life happens. That infamous Wednesday afternoon slump hits, a tiny schedule change completely throws you off, or just a random dip in energy derails your entire evening. Suddenly, your momentum just vanishes. And before you know it, you're right back at the beginning, craving another fresh start. It's an absolutely exhausting cycle.
Section 1, the starting over loop. Let's look at why our obsession with the clean slate can actually trap us.
Our brains naturally use temporal landmarks, think things like a new week, a new month, or your birthday, to mentally disconnect from our past mistakes. Researchers at Wharton call this the fresh start effect. It basically opens up this new mental accounting period that triggers sudden aspirational behavior, making us feel completely separated from our past selves. But here's the catch. This sudden rush of motivation, it's totally fleeting. When the novelty wears off, those old habits are just sitting there waiting for us.
So here is a major takeaway. You may not actually have a discipline problem, you might have an identity problem. We constantly try to create a brand new life without changing the deep emotional patterns that keep pulling us backward. You just can't build consistency while secretly telling yourself you're someone who never follows through. Real personal development requires deep self-awareness, not just a random burst of motivation on a Monday.
Section 2. The science of quitting. Why do we self-sabotage, and why do our brains actually want us to stop when things get hard?
A huge piece in this puzzle is cognitive dissonance. That's the mental discomfort you feel when holding conflicting beliefs. If you secretly have low self-worth and believe you're a chronic quitter, actually succeeding creates a massive internal conflict. Your brain craves order, so succeeding actually feels incredibly uncomfortable, causing you to unconsciously self-sabotage just to prove your old identity right and get back to a familiar state.
And this reverse bell curve of motivation explains so much. When we start something new, we get this massive spike in motivation fueled by the anticipation of a reward. And right near the finish line, it spikes again. But smack in the middle, motivation just plummets. This is the valley. For high-achieving or anxious folks, this dip actually triggers the brain's threat detection system, the amygdala, making us panic, doubt ourselves, and ultimately want to quit.
Digging a little deeper into the biology, neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman explains that when we exert effort, our brains release noradrenaline. It builds up to a maximum limit that physically triggers the urge to shut down. But to survive that dip, you have to deliberately acknowledge small milestones. Why? Because doing so releases dopamine. And dopamine is absolute magic here. It literally sweeps away those stress chemicals and restores your focus to keep going.
Section 3. Identity over discipline. Let's look at changing our underlying beliefs instead of just white-knuckling it with sheer willpower.
According to James Clear's work on habits, forcing good behavior through discipline alone almost always fails. You really have to leverage the habit loop: cue, craving, response, and reward. To rewire our mindset and identity, we need to start incredibly small, seamlessly stacking tiny new behaviors into our daily lives and making sure we get a small reward, like that dopamine hit we just talked about at the very end. Because the goal isn't just to achieve a single result, it's to gather proof about who you are. Every time you vote for the person you want to become, you cast evidence that this is who you are. By keeping highly specific, tiny promises to yourself, like committing to just drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning, you cast neurological votes. You stop being someone who can't follow through and start becoming someone who actually does what they say.
Shifting from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset completely changes our reaction to setbacks. In a fixed mindset, failing to stick to your plan feels like a reflection of your worth, right? It's basically proof that you should quit. But with a growth mindset, you stop viewing a missed workout or a bad mental health day as some huge moral failure. Instead, it's just valuable data. It's information to help you learn, adjust, and do better next time.
Section 4. Surviving the motivation dip. Let's build a really practical toolkit for navigating that awful middle valley.
When your motivation vanishes in that valley, you need specific strategies. Track your micro progress so you can visibly see you're moving forward. Use anchoring rituals to signal to your brain that it's time to work. Lean into discomfort reframing, meaning accept the temporary struggle instead of running from it. And try the 15-minute rule. Just commit to 15 minutes of work. Oftentimes, that is exactly enough to get the dopamine flowing and push through the initial friction without spiraling into avoidance.
So, here's the absolute most crucial point to remember. One missed day does not erase 30 kept promises. Consistency is not about perfection, it's about the roots you grow over time. If you miss a day, you simply acknowledge it and you get back on track tomorrow. That is the real secret to sustainable personal development.
Section 5. How to start continuing. Let's talk about how we finally break this cycle once and for all. We have to stop treating every single setback like we are totally back at zero. Because you aren't. Every attempt taught you something. Instead of forcing another fresh start, use your emotional intelligence to uncover why you're really falling off track. Ask yourself, what pattern keeps repeating? What am I avoiding? What keeps causing me to quit? And what would I do differently right now if I actually trusted myself?
This is how we rebuild self-trust and self-discipline from the ground up. Self-trust is literally a relationship with yourself. You don't need grand gestures. Just make a highly specific, small promise. Keep it. Acknowledge the win to get that dopamine and slowly expand your capacity as your self-trust solidifies. Let that evidence compound over time into unshakable confidence.
The goal isn't to become someone who never falls off track. The goal is to become someone who gets back on track without abandoning themselves. You don't need another perfect Monday. You just need a different relationship with yourself. Stop starting over. Start continuing.
Think about your own patterns for a second. What is a goal or habit that you've found yourself starting over and time and again? Whether you're just starting your career journey or looking for better balance as a woman over 40, share your repeat goals with us and ask yourself, based on what we've unpacked today, how will you start continuing today?